All right, and we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I'm talking with my good friend Inquisitive Quandary, who, by the way, unbeknownst to me at the time anyways, until they told me, he's going to be starting up a Discord server for me. And he's currently working on that right now. I've been in and out of Discord on other people's servers as well. But what the hell led you to do that, dude?
You had a lot of people saying that you are undersubscribed and underappreciated, and shit, you needed it. And I've just recently gotten into a few people's Discords, and it's a really good place for, community. It's kind of like Twitter, but without all the dumpster fires. Now they still happen, but
Yeah,
it's,
I know they
where
do.
the like-minded people can get together. You have a lot more control over the discourse that goes on in Discord. So
Right.
you can make a page your own. There's a lot of things you can do with it. And, you can put your schedule on there and all types of different stuff. And
Yeah,
it just
which would be
seemed like
cool.
something that would help promote your show. So, everybody's saying you're undersubscribed. Well, let's promote his ass.
Well, thank you, man. That's a great idea. I didn't really think I was going to actually do one myself anyways until I passed the 1,000 subscriber mark. And that's kind of what was my plan. When I hit the 1,000, I'm going to do the Discord, but apparently it's underway anyways. And I was going to do Patreon as well at that point, because that gives me a fair number of people that might want to help chip in. But I do have a PayPal me, guys, if you do want to help me out with the show, because I've dumped a bunch of money into making sure that this show is actually promotable, we'll say. I've got better equipment now and all kinds of stuff. So any little bit helps, definitely. So thanks to all that have done it so far. And I've gotten a few, so that's kind of cool. And it looks like Prophet of Zod has dropped in. Hello, Jeremiah. Yes, it should be pretty cool. The episode that I was involved with will be coming out probably within a month or so. So look out for that too on his channel. Oh, and hi, Casey. I did say you say hello. Anyways, you guys know what I do here, and you do too, Mr. IQ, we'll call you. I do deconversion stories. So why don't you take us back to that point where you kind of first started realizing that this belief system was just bogus, and you know the routine, and take us through that journey that brought you to becoming a atheist activist that you are today.
It all started when I was a young boy.
Oh, here we go.
Actually, seriously, about 8 years old. That's about the typical age, maybe earlier, roundabouts, where your parents tell you that detrimental story, and they fess up, Santa Claus is not real.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people have made this connection a lot, but I really think that it is a fundamental kind of aha moment where you see the connection between these two things. It's not just the whole, there's this invisible guy that's, making a list, checking it twice, and nobody's ever really seen him. And there's a lot of conspiracy around his actual existence. No, it's really about society's way of keeping people in check and getting people to obey, obey, or
and don't
else.
forget, not question either.
And not question.
And anytime anyone tells you not to question, you should immediately question.
That's my thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
I am a floating question. Anyway, when I was probably 3 to 5 years old, I started taking apart my toys just because I was curious. I've always wanted to know how things work. And yeah, I've got this wonderful toy, but what makes it work? What's inside of it? So I've always been curious as to getting into the middle of stuff. And, a few years later, I was starting to be able to put them back together, but that's besides the point. I started picking apart these stories that people were giving me, and getting back to the whole Santa Claus thing. I'm like, so you guys had me believing in this thing that I centered my entire year around, only to tell me that you just wanted to make sure that I was acting good.
Mm-hmm.
most kids are kind of heartbroken, or they just kind of, yeah, whatever. All right, now I can just ask you guys instead of having to waste my fucking time on writing a letter. But I really took that to heart, and I started questioning things at church. I grew up, my parents were Nazarene, and which is phenomenally close to Pentecostal. But at the time, I really didn't know it. Church was just church. I didn't know too
Sure.
much about different denominations. It was just, you just go to church. But I started asking questions. I'm going into Sunday school and they're telling me about Noah's flood. And I started asking, well, how did they fit all the animals in there? How big was it? And they try to give me these descriptions. Well, no, what did they do with all the poop? Like, where's all the water? Like, the insects, and like there was questions they couldn't answer. And if they did answer any of the questions, it was another roundabout question. It just needed more questions. Every answer came up with more questions. I'm like, okay, I see what's going on here. And after probably about 12 years old, I'm like, this is bullshit.
Wow, at 12.
Yeah, 12, 13, but I still had that lingering fear of hell. And everybody can attest to that. And there's adults that,
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
Deconverted decades, and they're still scared of hell. Up until about 16, 17, when I started partying.
Took you that long?
Well, that lingering fear of hell. I thought it was bullshit, but it's just like that kind of almost agnostic, what if this story sounds bad, but if there is something out there, I'm screwing myself, and how do I, come to terms with this inside my head?
Mm-hmm.
And well, I started doing a lot of LSD, and I mean a lot. If you've ever puddled with an actual hippie and sat there and talked about the desert and just how conversations go while you're on this substance, it's mind-boggling. And people who have sat there and done this, they've been doing this for decades, and all the crazy ideas that come up, the not so crazy ideas, and how it really clears your head up in a way. A lot of people will say that, oh, well, you're on drugs. How do you know your head's clear? It really dampers the part of your brain that accepts bullshit.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you can see things for what they are. Like, you can almost know what somebody's about to say before they say it. You can smell better, see more vibrant colors, so it enhances your senses because your brain's trying to make sense of everything that's going on. And during a lot of these conversations, I started getting into philosophy because I don't know, something snapped in my brain, and I started thinking about a lot deeper subjects. And that's when I came to the conclusion, if I don't believe in this, and if there's no good reason for me to think that this is real, why fear something that I don't have solid, conclusive evidence that I should even think is even a thing?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, poof, fear of hell was gone. Because you show me something I need to be scared of, I'll be scared of it, because there's a fine line between fear and respect, right? So if there's nothing to respect there's nothing to fear. So whatever. So pretty much that's my deconversion in a nutshell. Yeah, me, 13 years old. Boom. All right, I'm fucking done. And that's it. We can all go home now. All right. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Well, okay.
My biggest part of the story, I think, isn't so much my deconversion, it's my resisting reconversion.
Okay, talk about that a little bit then. Yeah. Because I'm like, are your family members fairly religious at all, or?
My wife is a fundamental Pentecostal.
Oh man,
I did not marry her this way. Her uncle is a pastor, and she had an experience out of respect, which is also why nobody's ever seen my face, because I don't need my face plastered up on something that she really takes personally, and she identifies with her religion. So as much as I say and talk about and what I do online, my face being associated with all this, I feel is disrespectful to the situation, and I need to keep my family together. So
Absolutely.
she has family members that are very, very religious. So I keep my face out of it, and that's it. So, out of respect, I won't go into too much detail about her life, but she had an experience that she cannot attest to anything that's, that can be logically explainable. And the only thing that can explain it is stuff that she read in the Bible. So that's what that is. And, we have 3 children, and, I still love my wife, and I will not tear apart my family for a conflict of interest and a conflict of ideas, because I've seen and had a lot of friends that had split up parents in their household.
I've talked to many that have gone through something similar to that.
It's not pretty.
No, it's not.
I mean, to say the least.
Sometimes it's necessary, though. Let's not forget that, though.
You're wasting money on lawyer bills and all this other stuff that you got. It's just, the kids got to bounce around from house to house, and they got to get their stuff, and they're going over daddies, then they're going back to mommies, and then they're splitting holidays. That's too much stress for children to go through, and that's unnecessary. And all I have to do is just sit back and let my wife do what she thinks is right, because it's not that big of a deal to me. It's a big enough of a deal to me to want to be an atheist activist, because I feel that there's a lot of damage that it does to a lot of people. And it's not a big deal because of Seth Andrews as a great example, the poster child of indoctrination. Had, the entire upbringing. I've heard all of his talks and seen the pictures of him when he was, younger. He was about as far in to indoctrination as one could pretty much possibly be without being locked in a basement in some sort of weird cult, and now he is pretty much the face of atheism just because of insight. And that is where I sit, is insight, because I'm not a scholar. I don't have a degree in anything. I have always just been a thinker. I've always been very emotionally intelligent with talking to people. I've always gotten along with a lot of people. I've been an asshole. Everybody has. And, I've learned from my mistakes. And
That's the important part, is learning from your mistakes.
Yeah. I can help people. I've overcame a lot of bigotries in my own mind just through sheer insight and philosophy. And I feel like I have something to offer that. And that's why I'm not worried about my children, is because they can be as far into the rabbit hole as possible, assuming that, there's no sort of freaking weird sacrifice. I'm fortunate that the Pentecostal church that she goes to is not a snake handling church. There would be issues.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because that is just ridiculous. But all it is stories. And I saw through it. Other people have saw through it. And I don't need to worry. All I need to be is daddy. I need to be there. I need to be a positive secular influence in my children's lives. And I just need to be there, and our family needs to stay together. So, and I have gotten the arguments we have, the conversations we have.
But is she overall, is she fairly like does your differences in belief systems cause a big problem, or can you guys manage to muddle through that?
We muddle through it. She knows and understands that I'm an atheist. She is not at the least bit happy about it.
Okay.
But
she probably thinks you're going to burn in hell, right? So
she knows who she married, but the marriage is the union, and there's that whole unequally yoked thing, but there's a loophole with that, in the fact that we were married before she was saved. So she's kind of stuck with me unless I cheat on her, which I'm an honorable guy and I have no intentions on doing anything like that. And I know better. I don't get shit-faced drunk, stay out at bars all night. I don't put
That makes
myself
one
in
of us.
situations where I can make I can make mistakes. So everybody fucks up, but I know what I want. I know me. I've questioned myself more than I've questioned anybody else, and I implore everybody to do the same thing. Is because when you know where you stand on things, you know who you are, and you know why you do the things you do. It's so much easier to help others understand themselves.
Mhm.
And that is the biggest thing. So resisting
Absolutely.
my wife's constant preaching, I sit and
Is
I
she
listen.
that bad, really?
Well, yeah, she is studying for ministry. So,
I thought women weren't allowed to do that.
well, that's the thing. You cherry pick and you have this scripture and that scripture that allows this. And no, this is what they meant. No, this is what they meant. No, this one, because they said this here, takes precedence over this one. You can cherry pick anything, anything you want to fit your narrative. And that's why we have so many different denominations out there. But it is what it is. And I'm just there to be a loving husband and a loving father. She can say whatever she wants. I even attend services with her. Why? It makes her feel better. It's not like I'm
Does she ever catch you
gonna
rolling your
burst.
eyes or anything when they talk?
No, here's the
Okay.
thing. I pay attention because you cannot criticize what you don't understand. And I'm like behind enemy lines there. Like, it's not so much
Fair enough.
espionage.
Espionage. Looking for the latest gossip, yeah.
But it really helps me. Every sermon I hear just so solidifies everything that I know is bullshit. And I keep my mouth shut because it's not that, number one, I need to embarrass my wife, because boy, would she not like anything that I had to say in front of everybody that she respects. But I don't participate in anything. It's all this stand up, sit down, stand up. I sit there.
Zod made a great point in the chat right now. One of the best ways to undermine a Christian's belief is just to be in their life as a steady, good person who's an atheist, because it kind of blows their whole imagery of atheism away.
Yeah. And it's my humanism that I put before everything.
Yeah.
I was always the person throughout high school that I had a friend in every single clique. I was hanging out with the stoners. I was hanging out with the thugs. I was hanging out with the geeks. Just everybody I related to in some way, because I didn't put a label on myself. Yeah, I was like a metalhead with hair down to my ass and the leather trench coat, and
I feel that.
But I was cool with everybody. And you know what brings people together in high school really well? Weed.
Weed?
Lots and lots of weed.
Won't argue with you there.
That brings people fucking together. And, not only does it bring people together, it brings them together in a nice little circle. And it gets them talking about really weird shit. And typically nobody remembers anything. So you can say whatever you want. But I always listened and I always remembered. So I got to know people. And you can just try to pick somebody out of a crowd and say, oh, they're this and they're that. And, and there was, because I went to an art school, and art schools are excessively cliquey, because not only do you have, the metalheads, the thugs, the stoners, your average, Fast Times at Ridgemont High type scenario, but you also have the people that are in technical theater. You have the dancers. You have the creative writers, and they're all their own separate cliques. But I still got along with just about everybody because I didn't hate anybody.
Right.
And so in turn, nobody really hated me, and I was just kind of cool with everybody. So I didn't really understand humanism at that point. I just didn't want to be a douchebag. So I started looking more into it, and it's really over the past several years that I really started looking into what humanism is. I'm like, well, shit, I've been doing this for 2 decades already. So when I'm talking to somebody, I'm not looking at you through this lens that everybody else, oh, well, look at his shoes, or, look at the way they talk. Yeah, if somebody has a really funny accent, you can point it out because it's an outstanding accent, but it doesn't define them. What defines somebody is their actions. And if somebody is going to be a dickhead, you call them out on that. And if they persist on being a dickhead, you keep calling them out on it.
Yeah.
But you don't hate them for it. Because the only way you're going to get somebody to stop hating is to show them kindness. Because if you show them hate, it's just a mirror effect, and it just keeps bouncing back on you. And that's no way to have a progressive conversation. So I'm learning all this, like towards high school. And it was odd enough that I would skip school sometimes and go to the library and learn some useful shit, because I sit down and I read the whole fucking book for each class within the first week of school, and just like kind of almost Johnny Five it, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, I guess I get that now. And they would try to teach me shit, and I'm like, I already know this. Well, Mr. Smart Ass, well, here's a test. And like, from like the end of the year, I'd pass it, and they'd be like, well, you still need to bring your book to class. I'm like, no, I don't. There's nothing else in there that I need to know. But I ended up, not getting the best of grades because, well, I never did homework either. That was part of me being an asshole, because I wasn't allowed to bring anything from home to school. So, damn it, I'm not bringing anything home from school. So, it was a situation of just mainly a social life. Mm-hmm. So after high school, I could have taken the path, gone to college. I was interested in a lot of sciences and stuff. And I decided to take the low road. Not so much sabotaging my life, but I'm like, if I really enjoy knowing people, so I'm going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be able to know people. If I put myself on a high horse and, real successful and all that, I'm not going to be able to connect with people well. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was just enjoying getting stoned out of my mind and, drinking, partying. So it was just like, whatever, I'll just keep partying. I always had religious conversations with people. Always had deep, crazy deep conversations with people. And that's what I like to do. So I just decided to keep going with that. And that's where I am now. Do I regret not really going to college? Of course, because, well, if you've heard me, I worked my ass off because of that. And, right. But there's no
even
shame.
With some college. So, and I still work my ass off. So
there's really no shame. Somebody's got to do whatever job it is to get by. And I don't look down on anybody else. And I would expect the same from them. Mm-hmm. If I try to have a really intense conversation with somebody and they're like, well, where did you go to college? I'm like, I didn't. They're like, oh, well, I guess you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm like, hold on a second.
Oh, I know. I hate that.
You went to college. Now, given somebody who does have like a PhD in any particular subject, it's a really good marker that they know what the fuck they're talking about. But all it is information. You sat down and somebody explained something to you and you focused on one particular thing and somebody just talked and you took notes and you took tests and they made sure you retain the information and boom, here's your sheet of paper. You know, I would have been great at that, but I didn't take that road. And you know, it is what it is. But that doesn't mean that you, just because you didn't go to college, you can't retain information.
That's right.
It's the information age. It's like, it's not the so much the information age. This is the, I previously did not know that until 15 minutes ago. Thanks, Google. Anything you want to know, anything, you just look it up, and the information, the whole entire world of information is just there for you, like on a platter. And you want to learn something, you can learn it. You've got a lot of different sites like brilliant.com and the Great Courses Plus, which I love, because you can just have like, oh, I want to know about this, boom, and you just learn it. And if you can retain the information, the only thing is you have to want to learn. You have to want to not be ignorant about something. You can stumble across something and be like, oh, yeah, that was interesting, and then forget about it 2 minutes later because you're like, oh, what's on TV tonight? But you have a thirst for knowledge. That's the thing. You need to be hungry, very hungry, to just never stop learning, because anybody who stops learning, you're an intellectual park. You are always learning. You're always figuring out something that you thought you knew, you didn't quite know very well, or that was just completely wrong in the first place. And it's a dynamic, like, just brain is a sponge. You just soak it up and you get rid of what sucks and you keep what works. And kind of one of my philosophical pillars is actually Bruce Lee.
Wow. I love him.
Well, Bruce Lee was freaking awesome. I mean, not only some of the feats that he was available to do physically is just amazing, because, he started off as being a scrawny ass little guy, but he trained himself to do that, which is a testament. You put your mind to it, you can accomplish really anything. But I mean, one of his best ones is absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own.
Yep.
And that kind of ties into a religious aspect, because I've looked into a lot of different religions, a lot of different subsets of Christianity. I've read some of Muslim texts. I've gone through Taoism and Buddhism and taken, hey, this is all just something that keeps people to be what they felt to be the best kind of person given that demographic or that society. And there's some story to help keep you in line. So I took a lot of different areas, everything that I thought that was useful. And I'd even been called a Taoist. I think it was a progressive liberal. He said, I think he's a Taoist. And like, yeah, I borrow a lot from it, because being able to, like Stoicism, you just kind of go with the flow. You roll with everything, and you don't plant your feet so firmly on the ground that you're not able to spin around if you need to. You just keep your eyes peeled, your mouth shut when it needs to be, and just keep going on. So it's where I am now. I am an atheist activist. I'm married to what is supposed to be my enemy, but my humanism comes before everything. Everything. Yep. And I have to put that shit on the back burner, because this is somebody that I love. Yeah. And if I'm there to save them, or if I'm just there to keep my mouth shut.
I thought she was already saved, buddy.
Because it's the 21st century and men really don't wear the pants in the family anymore. If it's me there to keep my mouth shut, or to say something when it needs to be said, when something gets absolutely ridiculous, no. Let me show you why you're wrong. And it can be accepted or completely disregarded. But the point is, you're there and you need to be you no matter what. And that is the most beautiful thing to me, to have, to be able to help somebody just be themselves, regardless of whatever's going down, no matter what situation you're in. You need to look at the people first. You need to look at you first, and you need to know that the situation is going to be okay. And that's what I find so fulfilling, is just helping somebody be who they are and realizing that, because I've gone through that same thing and I am in the trenches, and it doesn't really even feel like it because I'm able to just let it go because it's not that big of a deal.
That's true. And it's not. I mean, we got to do what we got to do to save the relationships that we cherish, right?
Indeed. Well, it depends on what's important to you. And to me, it's family. And
family's important.
You know, my children. I've got a soft spot for children. Somebody can insult me up and down all day long, and I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. You know, like, I don't care what you think of me because you don't know me, and I do, and you're wrong. So, fuck you. That's it. But when it's children, because I mean,
I have to live vicariously through my sisters because I don't have any of my own that I am aware of anyways. So.
Well, I can't say up or down whether I would suggest it or not, because it's, you know, it's not for everybody. I knew I wanted children. Originally, it was because I wanted to have free thinking children that I can train in the ways of, you know, logical thinking and whatnot. But, you know, things don't always much ever go the way you plan them to.
That's true. That's very true in a lot of cases. Yeah.
Yeah. People who are very uncomfortable and very frustrated with life means that you've just appointed yourself incorrectly, and you are angry that things didn't go the way you wanted them to, and you just didn't have the data to back up what you thought was going to happen. So that's why I roll with things, because it's, you never know exactly what's going to happen. You could try to make the calls, but damn it, you really don't know. So just do what you can, roll with it, and life is beautiful. The world we've poisoned it with is what sucks.
Well, we've poisoned the world, so I mean,
it is kind of a catch-22, but nonetheless, you know, just life in itself. No matter how bad you think it is, it can always get worse. That's something I've noticed. The second you think it can't get any worse, life has a funny way of showing you exactly how wrong you are. So you just, you know, you stub your toe, you still have the toe. You lose a toe, the foot's okay. You lose a foot, well, you know, the rest of my leg's all right. You lose a leg, I've got another one.
I got to back up.
You just have to look on the bright side. Optimism is where it's at, and trying to keep a smile on, and not just that fake ass, oh hi, how you doing, welcome to McDonald's kind of fucking smile.
Well,
no, actually
optimism,
being happy.
Optimism's great, but I like to be pragmatically optimistic. So
yes, actually understanding why you should be happy and not just forcing yourself to be happy. You need to know why you should be happy, and that comes by questioning yourself and questioning the answers that you give yourself, and keep questioning until you hit the absolute most fundamental rock bottom of anything that you have going on inside your head, and that's where you are. Once you find you, everything else falls into place, and doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you will be able to look on the bright side once you know who you are, where you stand. Nobody can touch you, psychologically at least.
Right, for sure.
And that's what I like to help people out with, is just being able to find that. And it's, you know, you can talk about that and say, oh yeah, that's the way you do it. It's not easy. There's
I know. Speaking about
really
it is one
shitty
thing.
Questions you have to ask yourself.
yeah. And going through it is something else, right? I mean, you know, talking about it's one thing. Actually coming to action is something else.
I mean, understanding why you told this sexist joke. You didn't like, you know, you didn't hate women. You didn't feel like you were bigoted against anything. You were just telling this, you know, like a big boob or a blonde joke or something like that back in the day. And everybody kind of laughs and that's it. But did you really stop and question yourself why you think that that's funny? You know,
it generally stems from old silly stereotypes. A lot of those jokes, right?
Yeah. And I always used to think that, you know, you don't have a stereotype without at least a 51% accuracy. Because unless it's just a big fucking lie, which is a big thing about that, because that's the monkey wrench. Because sometimes shit just gets started and things get blown out of proportion, and everybody believes something that isn't not entirely accurate, but isn't even right at all. Like the atheism thing, being an atheist is somebody who firmly believes that no God exists, and you know, like they can prove it. Like it's just you just
it's not the case.
It's not the case, but that's what everybody's meant to believe, and that's a stereotype. And that isn't even close to a 51% accuracy. It's not even a 1.
Well,
there's hard atheism, but the nuance, but that's not just what an atheism is. Somebody is
an atheist,
and hard atheist can have that position, but just being an atheist, that's not true. So I used to think that way, where okay, stereotypes are stereotypes, and there's stupid people, and there's this and that. And I came to a point where I had to reject and question any sneaky, like snake in the grass bigotries that were floating around in my head. That is just a product of society. That to where, you know, like I really didn't hate people, but I'm thinking all these things, I'm making these jokes, and I'm laughing at this and that, and I'm like kind of blasé about a lot of different things that are going on in the world, just because, well, they had it coming, and you know, you convince yourself all this shit, it's not true. And really understanding that about yourself is tough, because you're just used to being you. But I didn't even know who I was, and taking that time to find out who you actually are and why you do the stupidest things that you do, not as in uneducated stupid, but the slightest, most insignificant little things you should question yourself about, because when it all adds up, there's a lot of bullshit that you uncover.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, man. I mean, I've gone over my perspectives on things multiple times, and and then sometimes you overlook some shit too, and then when you go back and you think about something else again, and I'm going to discard that because that's just horseshit or whatever. So yeah,
nobody, and I mean,
it's good to question.
Nobody on this fucking planet has any more or less inherent value as a person than me. We are all born. Nobody is. Well, I say nobody has any more or less inherent value than me, just as a person.
Okay.
You can have your beliefs. You can have what you do. You can be a complete jackass. You can be Hitler. But it doesn't, just as the person, you are qualified by your actions. And you can be a good person and do good things. And you can be a bad person and do horrible things. But when it comes to being a man, woman, race, you know, what religion, what your beliefs are, nobody is better just because of these things.
No, that's right.
Than anybody else. And that's what I'm getting at. Now, the flip side to that, if there's somebody out there that has spent a little bit less time hating than me, a little bit more time loving and understanding, a little bit more time educating themselves, they are a better person than I am. Inherently, no. They're not more valuable as a person, but they've spent more time being a better fucking person. That's what it means when you're trying to better yourself. You're trying to become a better person. If somebody spent more time being a better person, that makes them better than me. And it's not that looking down on me like, oh, you suck and I'm a better person than you. That's not what that means. That means that they've just spent more time. They've spent less time.
Yeah, but that doesn't make them better. That just makes them. Let me put it, because you have the opportunity to do exactly what they did. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Better than you.
They don't. They're not inherently better.
Right.
but
They're not better than you,
they
but
are.
you could be on that level too if you every opportunity that you get to as well.
Yeah, and people give me a sneer look when I say a phrase like that, and I really have to double down on they're not any more valuable as a person than I am. And I don't think that way, and I don't think that I'm better than anybody else as a person. But when I say somebody has been better at being a better person, that's what I mean. They've
Yeah.
they've been doing it longer. They've figured it out quicker, and they've done more good than I have. And it's not like it's a rat race. We all do what we can.
Exactly. Exactly. And hang on, I have to address something really quick here. Julie LaVoice is claiming that I'm Wolverine from the X-Men. She found out my secret. There you go. There's my shirt right there. So yes, it's weird. I seem to have something for everything comments like people say about me in the chat there. Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, I do. That's an old. I bought that at a costume shop actually when I went to find my Jack Skellington costume, and I said, "Oh, cool! That's a cool Wolverine shirt. I'm going to buy that." And sure shit, I did. Then I bought the Jack Skellington costume, and then that Halloween at the pub, there was actually a guy dressed as Wolverine. So I took a picture with him. It was great.
Neil's always got a six-pack.
Oh, 60, yeah. Well, I usually buy. Oh, yeah, the shirt, right? Yeah. No. I'm beyond the 6-pack days. Now is my my keg. I carry around a keg with me. Let's put it that way. I've evolved past the 6-pack. Actually, I usually buy 15 packs, but yeah, it's the only way you'll have a 6-pack too, Mark. Yeah, me too these days. I mean, I could probably go back to the gym and work at it for like 2 years to get back to that shape. But yeah, no, I'm much more fucking closer to the dad bod thing nowadays, even though I'm not a dad. But anyway,
it creeps up on you.
It does. And one day you wake up and you go, "When the fuck did that happen?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 38 now, and
puppy.
Yeah. Well, I did maintenance in a retirement community for about like 8-9 years. And if you want to put old into perspective, is make a lot of acquaintances with people that are in their like 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see somebody like when you're younger, you used to think that 60 was old as shit. And then once you start getting closer to that age, you're like, I don't feel really, psychological. I don't feel any different than I did when I was a teenager. Yeah,
I know, me either. But my body reminds me that that's not so much the
your
case.
body reminds you when
I'm in my 50s now, buddy. So
when you see that commercial about all those great songs that you grew up to that you can't find in stores anymore, when you wake up with sleep injuries.
How did I break my own nose?
Something hurts in the morning that didn't hurt when you went to bed. That's usually a good indication. Things just start falling apart, and before you know it, your body is not working the way it used to. It happens to everybody, and that is what it is. That's another big thing about going with the flow. It's making peace with death. Maybe that's a longer conversation than we have time for right now, but
dude, oddly enough, when I fully accepted the fact that I was actually an atheist and believed that no gods exist, because I'm a hard atheist, I think they're all bullshit and mythology and made up by mankind completely, and they have been for literally thousands of years now. When I accepted that there's nothing that comes after this, and accepted the fact that I'll probably return to the state I was in before I was born, I was completely okay with death. I fear death nada at all. I don't fear it at all. What I fear is dying painfully, because that would suck.
I mean, of course, I don't want to die. I would like to.
Of course, I'm not done doing shit, right? Yeah.
Like, I want to enjoy. I want to wake up and fear life. But like, what was it? It was either Hitchens or Harris that, had said, like, do you fear? No, actually, that was Penn Jillette, right? He was he was talking and he said, "Do you fear the year like 1895?"
Yeah, yeah.
And no. Okay. Why would you fear? You weren't born yet. You weren't around. I don't remember not existing. I'm not afraid of not existing. I've been there before, and I can't tell you what it's like.
That's right.
I don't know what happens because the only people who can't tell you. So
That's
it's like,
right.
I want to be around. I want to enjoy life. There's still things that I want to do and
Yep.
enjoy, but the actual just dying, it's like, yeah, it's going to happen. You need
Yep.
to accept it because I can't say it is going to happen to you because, we could find some sort of telomerization process that keeps us from dying of old age. And the only people that die are from crazy illnesses, diseases, and,
That we haven't conquered yet. Yeah.
physical trauma. Old age
Yep.
could be a thing in the past in the next few decades. Who knows?
There's actually, you mentioned that, and a lot of the research papers that we get where I work at, I'm a chemist, if you didn't know that. A lot of the research papers that we get that come through just for reading material, like peer review stuff and whatnot, that comes through journals and magazines that we get, we're probably they're very close to the aging thing. Nothing has come across yet where they're going to be able to turn it off quite yet, but they can now. They feel that they are on the right track to slowing the aging process down. So they're looking at maybe possibly the human lifespan expanding to the average of 80 to 100 year span to closer to 250 years.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I'm all for that too, man, because it just gives us more opportunities to experience more things.
Now, I don't want 80 years of functionality and, 120.
No, they're telling you that you'll be able to function normally right up almost to the end, right? So,
I mean, I don't want to just be super duper like dust fucking old and not be able to do anything for myself. At that point, like, are you alive or just breathing?
Exactly.
I want to be alive, but as far as just fearing death, no, it's like
not anymore.
Chances are everybody alive right now really needs to accept that fact that it's going to happen to you and try to do everything you can to prevent it from happening, but embrace it. It's part of life. It's part of what happens, and
it's the end of life. It's the final chapter.
It's just what happens. And, I can't tell you what's going to happen afterwards, but it's like, it just makes total sense that the brain is your consciousness because we have zero reason to think otherwise and many reasons to think that that's just the case. And keep it running.
Yeah. And so I always tell people, so everyone's like, well, if there's no afterlife, then what's the point? And I say, well, you know what? The point is while you're here, do something meaningful, make a difference in the world so that you leave behind some kind of legacy that people are going to talk about for years to come. And that is how you live on.
Mm-hmm. What was that phrase? You die twice. Once when, your body expires, and then again when the last person utters your name.
Yeah.
For the last time. And I think that's so poetic. When your name is spoken for the last time and it will never be said again, that is death.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, dude,
anyway.
we are closing in on the hour. Is there anything else you want to just make a mention before we jump into an after party?
No, I was actually amazed that I was able to ramble for that long. I was I was skeptical, imagine that I was going to actually be able to talk for that complete hour, but I guess I made it work.
Yeah, you did.
Super.
Indeed. Yeah.
I'm usually really quiet, but that's why. Because
I have yet to experience that IQ. Okay, let's put it that way.
One of my favorite phrases is "shut up and listen." You learn something.
Yes, I'm a big listener too. So,
especially if I'm out of my element.
I do this.
especially if I'm out of my element. If I don't feel like I have something profound to say or something to offer in the conversation or a joke, I just shut up and I listen. And that's how I'm able to say something the next time, because I learned something. That's how you learn.
Yep.
Stop thinking that you already know everything.
No, I just got to figure out on StreamYard here how I can put links in the video itself. I know you can do something through branding, I think, or whatever. But I'll figure it out, because I'd like to put a link to my PayPal in the thing. I had the banner up there for a while, but
I saw that,
it's
because
not
I'm not in
actually a
there
link.
to throw up the link as
I know.
you've
All
said,
my
the
other
moderator extraordinaire.
all my other moderators are slacking. I'm going to start taking wrenches away, unless you guys start posting links to my PayPal, my channel, that kind of thing, and my guests channel, which is actually the most important. But you don't do anything on. I was going to post a link to your YouTube in the description below. I do have your Facebook, or not your Facebook, your Twitter down there, but all you have is a playlist. You don't even have anything on your channel.
I mean, I am not really pressed on making any content. There's a lot of people out there making really, really, really good videos. And if I made a video right now, it's going to be terrible. Because I do not have the means to make a video that I think really represents what I would like to put out there. I mean, yeah, it would be great information. It would be a great message, but it's going to sound like somebody made it on their fucking phone. And I don't want that. I'm going to put out something when I know that I'm ready to actually make it seem reasonably professional.
Use your computer.
My computer, I'm on my phone right now doing this interview. Every time you've ever spoken with me has been on a phone away from my house. So we have a laptop, but I'm not doing anything that has to deal with activism on that laptop, because it's slow as shit. And that's what my wife deals with. And I'm keeping that separate, because as far as everything I need to do right now, this galaxy can take care of it. And I will put out some videos whenever, I'll just say it, when I'm damn good and ready. and then that's it. And it'll be great. Everybody will love it. But until then, I'll put out some freaking playlists on there. And, what was it? Shannon said that she was at 500 subscribers or something like that before she even made her first video. Ocean was kind of the same way.
I know. And I've been trying real hard here, and I've got 800 and something now.
Well, that'll pop open a little bit once you get out there a little bit more. That Discord's going to be a good deal, because it's really a good way for everybody to come together.
It is true. That's true. Randolph has a message for you. Please tell Inquisitive Quandary that I think he's right not to buckle under the peer pressure to make videos before he's ready. So
Thank you, Randolph.
I know. He's such a lovable guy, isn't he?
He is.
And I get to see him all the time in person. So there you go.
And unless you're a dumbass, then you might not find him quite pleasant.
Well,
because he will he will show you the error in your ways, and he will not hesitate to keep showing you.
Yeah, but he does it in a polite fashion. I think it drives some of the theists. It drives them crazy. This guy's too nice to be an atheist. What the fuck's wrong here?
What was that one episode of Family Guy where they had the drive-by argument, where they just kind of pull up oh, Reginald, I disagree, and then it pulls off.
Yeah, that's weird.
I can see Randolph doing that.
Yeah, probably.
That's hilarious. Right? But anyway, it was a great time talking. Thanks for having me on the show.
He goes too polite to be an atheist. I don't do that on purpose. Sure, buddy. Yeah, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here.
Kind of amazing. I never thought that I would be featured in anything when I got into all this. I was just trying to connect with people when I started a Twitter account, and just to talk to other atheists, because I was in this bubble of madness. And it just kind of took off, and they're man, I might actually have something to offer everybody. So
you do. Every voice counts. Like KC and Godless Engineer say, use your voice, man. Every voice counts. And Julie LaVoice, speaking of voice, sends her love. So,
thank you, Julie.
Yeah, dude, it's been awesome having you on. I've been looking forward to this because you were kind of hemming and hawing when we first talked about this, and I was like, no, we'll get you on one of these days. So
I made it kind of a weird. How many other people have made your Usual Suspects group before they did an interview with you?
Very few. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to add one now. I actually talked to Insects Are Cool, or
is there a limit to the groups? Like,
yes, 50, right? And she's in there twice. She's under both her real name and Insects Are Cool. I'm like, could you please pick one, and then I can add someone to the group? Yeah, exactly. Because I'd like to add. I just met Lauren, thanks to BCH, or as he's known. What the hell's his channel name? Blue Collar Heathen, BCH. Yes. He introduced me to Lauren, who's really, really cool. And she's a newer atheist. She just kind of came out of it. Lauren KR is her name. She's also known as Skeptic She. She's got a YouTube channel, which I highly recommend you give it a shot. It's under Skeptic She. And she just got a new Twitter account. I think we convinced her to do that so that she could keep in touch with everyone. And she's the one I want to add to the group because I have scheduled a chat with her. Hang on. When is it going to be? October 5th, a Saturday, 6 p.m., just like this. And she's excited to come on. She said she checked a little bit out and she's kind of liked it. So I got quite a few excellent people coming on. I actually got Dave Warnock to agree to come on. Dave Warnock, if you guys don't know, is an atheist who's been terminally diagnosed with ALS. So in his last few years, he's trying to get out there and spread the word about you don't need beliefs to feel good about yourself, and and all that stuff, right? So
that's a fine message.
Yeah, and so he's going to be on there, and we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I'm looking forward to that. And my next interview is with someone who's been through a little bit of controversy lately because of the way she thinks of non-binary type stuff, and that's May Griffin. We'll dabble a little bit in that. I want to see how she's sitting with that because there's a lot of people that have kind of been trashing on her for the way she views it. So, and I'm one of those people that still kind of thinks that you don't get to make up your own definitions of things because it doesn't really help anything. But I do think that if you are who you believe you are, okay, you are who you feel that you are on the inside. So I'll always stand beside someone that this is how I feel. This is who I am. And, I'm always there to back those kinds of people up. Right. So
don't let somebody tell you who that person is.
That's right. But on the other side of that coin, I still don't think people should be able to redefine something. If it has a definition already that has been accepted as being what it is. Although,
indeed,
although I can also say that sometimes definitions do change because certain things in society change too, right? So there's always that.
Definitions are tentative, but
words are intrinsic.
It has to be agreed upon, and it needs to move into that. You can't just wake up one day, you know what? I don't like this definition. This is what it actually means. And just kind of boom, and that's it. I'm not going to accept anything else. So it needs to be kind of a vote.
Well, you got to think too, right? Like if you're talking, day-to-day colloquial definitions or philosophical definitions, or and I think when we refer to ourselves as how we feel, we're more in the philosophical side. So we have the ability to define ourselves in whatever way we philosophically feel, maybe something along those lines.
Well, anything that's subjective, that's on you to define because that's in your head. That's what you know, and the only person that really knows that is you, assuming you're asking yourself the right questions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I'm in agreement there for sure. But anyways, guys, we're over time, and I'm sure there's a few people that are kind of antsy that might want to join us in an after party. And if that is the case, guys, feel free to message me on Twitter if you're not in my Neil's Usual Suspects group. I'll send you a link right away, and we're going to get into an after party right after this. So once again, my friend, thanks for joining me today. It was Really good talking with you.
Super awesome, Neil.
Yeah, and let's do it again sometime. We can do like a part 2 even or something. I promised many people part 2s, but I want to get through more and more people before I start doing those kind of duplicates.
You're never going to run out of material. It just seems like people are popping up left and right. So
I know, yeah, all the time. I just added 2 or 3 more, I think, today to the schedule. So
when you start doing that, do them 5 at a time, because your StreamYard allows up to 6 people. Just to have 5 people at a time, having kind of categorize us into the humanist, or the people who specialize in this type of I guess atheism help, or they spread this particular type of message or something like that. I don't know, way to just break it up into a category, however you feel like doing that. Maybe segregation isn't always the best thing.
I had an idea for another type of live streams that I'll be doing in the future, and that'll be talking to atheists about altruism and how, I'll talk to people who do things that are good for charity or good for community, altruism in the atheist world. Right. And I've already got a few people that I have in mind that I will talk to right away. And just to show, like, believers might stumble on my channel one day and see these videos and go, oh, so they think they're good people. And then they'll listen to the video, and you never know, it might change some minds. Right. Like with my blood donation thing, I'm going to do my own episode first just to talk about that. And as an idea of what I mean behind atheists being good human beings and actually contributing positivity to our communities. Right. And try to better our world however we can. So indeed. I would love to talk to people about
that's a pretty good idea.
And I can have 2 or 3 people in one of those, and we can have a discussion, panel discussion sort of on that sort of thing. So anyways, guys, be on the lookout for that. It's not going to happen right away. I may start doing those next summer. So because I'm pretty much going to be booked with many of these for the next year, because I'm already into like halfway through October with these things. So it's more and more people are hearing about this, and they're actually coming to me and say, hey, listen, I'd like to tell my story. That's happened about a dozen times already now, I think. So I guess this is reaching people, which is good.
You're going to need a secretary.
I thought that was you. I thought you were the one doing all that.
Why do you think I stepped up?
He doesn't need a channel, people. He's helping me with mine. Anyways, dude, let's get the hell out of here and let's get into an after party. Like I said before, guys, if you want to join us, just let me know on Twitter, and I will add you to the chat. Now, we can only have, with myself and IQ in the chat in the after party, we can only have 4 more people. So if there's more than that, we might have to rotate you in and out. So just be aware of that, okay? And as I always say at the end of these things, wait, before I do that, one more reminder about my PayPal. There's a link in the description below. If you do feel like you're generous enough to throw a few bucks at me, that'd be awesome. Anyways, as I always say at the end of these things, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.
See you.
Oh, and thanks for joining us.